G'day listeners and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Australia podcast powered by Australian Property Scout Buyers Agency. I'm your host, Sammy Gordon, and today, guys, we have an absolutely cracking investor episode for you. We know you guys love him, and we're bringing someone from the other end of the demographic pool, which I am super pumped to be diving into his story. We can pretty much tell that by the A3 size paper with his portfolio drawn out, and compared to the typical A4 we typically see. But mate, big Peter Wandl, mate, you're in the house. How are you, buddy? Welcome to the podcast.
Man, Sammy, I'm excited. I'm literally just buzzing. I've been excited monkey all morning. Woke up 3 hours early. I'm pumped for it. I'm ready to go with my A3 size paper
There you go.
that you can see from the space shuttle.
Mate, 100%. I could see it when I left from Broadbeach Waters and was driving down. I could see it popping out over the buildings. It's that big. But nah, man, it's I'm super excited. And for anyone that was at the summit in April last year in the Gold Coast, man, you were the chap that I incorrectly named age-wise.
So how old am I, Sammy?
You're 61.
Yes.
There we go. I've got it. Yeah, man, but you were the, obviously mentoring client in that April session we did last year. We've been working together for a fair while now. And yeah, man, I'm super excited to dive into your journey, because it's not actually often we have, obviously, like a larger demographic of who we work with is probably 20s, 30s into the 40s as well. There's not as many people we find that kind of have the, probably the best way, maybe like the gumption or the steel to want to invest at your age and comfortable to go hard. A lot of people get a lot more conservative as they get older. And man, it's really cool to see what you've done to date, man. I'm so excited to be diving into your strategy and your portfolio, and yeah, man, picking the whole thing apart and listening to the whole journey, man. So super pumped.
Yeah, I'm ready. And you're 100% right. I know my journey is different. And like I talked to a guy Ian in Avalon, who's a client of APS, and we're a different demographic and we have different needs, and we've got a shorter time frame to do things in. But then on the other side, I understand, like I got my sons and my nephews, they're in that 20 bracket, and I want them to do as brilliantly. You know what? I don't want them working at 60 like I am. I want them to be able to choose what they're doing from 40 onwards.
Mate, I love that. And even to touch on that for a second, like obviously you came into our sphere from someone else that was a close friend of yours that was pushing you to listen to our stuff and to work with us as well. But then even like how you've taken that and applied that to your boys, man, and your extended friends, family, everything, mate. It's been really, really inspiring to see. And I remember sitting with a young fella, and we did the Zoom session, and I asked him, like, how would you feel, because we were just talking about doing one deal, and I was like, well, how would you feel about having 3 properties in like a 12 to 18 month window? And man, just the way I saw his face light up, like you just thought it was, getting one deal, I could see he was excited, and the possibility about able to do that. And now he's on his second, stripping equity to go into his third, right? And mate, that's just one of us. That's obviously Josh, compared to Ricky as well, and all the extended family getting into it too, man. And it's exciting, mate. Watching your journey and how that's all playing out, and then obviously, your sons, man, and what they're looking to do all across the board too, mate. So it's exciting, mate. And I'm pumped to go through that. But honestly, I just want to give you a shout out from that end, mate, of being that circle of influence for your family as well. And I know how important they are to you. And you're a very giving person in terms of information. You want to see people succeed, mate, which is rare in Australia. And man, it's honestly, it's very, humbling to kind of watch you from the outside, the way you try and get everyone in and amongst it as well. And really try and ensure everyone around you is creating that wealth too, man. So I just want to give you a shout out before we even jump in about that, mate, because it's inspiring.
Thanks very much. And, and like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in karma.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do good things, and then maybe good things will come back to me. That's sort of my philosophy on life.
Yeah, 100%, man, mate. I'm sure they are. I'm sure there's definitely a lot of good things floating around heading your way as well, mate. Dude, to jump into the portfolio, which is what I really love to do, can you give us a high level snapshot before we really dive into the story and how you even got into property and how it all started ticking over and everything? Mate, give us a high level snapshot of the portfolio today. How's it looking? We're talking number of properties, total value.
The current situation is 11 properties, with a total gross equity. The portfolio is 9.6 million.
That's total value.
Total value.
Yep.
9.6 million with a an equity position of about 5 million.
Oh wow, mate, that's epic. So you're sitting at a sub 50% debt level as well, which is, mate, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So you circa 5 mil on the equity piece as well, mate. That's beautiful. Man, let's jump into it.
Ready to go.
What got you into property for one? Like what kind of got you thinking about it at the the very, very start?
I can't even tell you because it was that long ago.
Okay.
It was literally, as the kids say, literally, it was last century. Yeah. I mean, even with my first wife, we bought a unit in DY and then we sold that. But I've always thought of property as a vehicle. And then I know a lot more about it than I ever did in that. But I had an interest in buying property. Then when I separated from my first wife and then I bought a unit, and then Gab and I bought a house together. That was like an impetus for us to go forward. But I still remember way back when I grew up in Willoughby that my parents they bought, Purcell tiles and this house in Narromburn, and they were into it themselves, even though they came across as having no money they're on the boat, the £10 POMs, even though we're not POMs, but they built up. But the mentality was different. My dad only bought stuff when he had the money to actually buy it.
Yep.
He didn't take loans for investments. But so I think maybe a trigger from my dad.
So if that's the case, right? So if he what got you comfortable taking on debt? If you're like coming from that family, because I very much had the same thing. My family took on debt for the primary residence, and then that was it. It was like, how do I pay this off as quickly as possible? Not from an investment side. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it's a very different.
It is
philosophy and way of thinking.
But when Gabriel and I bought our house, you're in a certain level of debt then. And at that stage, actually Gabriel had a unit in Harbord, I had one in Mona Vale, and then we bought a house in Newport.
Okay.
And we were under a little bit of pressure and we ended up selling her Harbord one.
Yep.
But in hindsight, we wouldn't have done it. We would have dealt. Because at that stage, and that was in the early noughties, we weren't comfortable with that level of debt. Yep. But somewhere along the line, we built that level of comfort. And I remember talking later, you mentor me, but now I'm sort of working with my kids. I said to Josh, do you want $1 million worth of debt? And he goes, oh, hell no. I said, what about if that $1 million worth of debt comes with $2 million worth of property? Oh, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, I'll take that $1 million equity.
Yeah. And you can look at our position, and I know Gabriel sometimes gets concerned about the size of our debt. But then, as you said, it's the LVR, we're above 50%. And we'll go through them individually, but at any stage we could sell down any property and just take the equity.
That's it, right? Like, and obviously I know your portfolio pretty intimately. There's probably you could sell 2, 3, 4 of your properties and then probably get yourself down to a sub 20% LVR, which is crazy. Like that's the whole name of the game, right?
True.
So, but leverage is also name of the game. You need a leverage to that point to be able to get to the position where you could go through the sell down and obviously own them at the lower piece as well. So, man, if you don't mind, talking about your parents' side of things. Well, what did your parents do for work?
Well, my dad actually, so we're a Germanic family,
okay.
Right? Dad's from Austria.
Yeah.
They came, my mum and dad, mum's actually from New Zealand.
Okay.
And
interesting.
Who is also a client, I think the oldest client in APS, I'm guessing.
Yeah, other than Jimmy, yeah.
And they met in Europe, and he actually trained as a baker in Switzerland.
Yeah, right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so then they met in London, got married, and then they came out on the boat in those days in the 60s, the £10 POMs, but they're not POMs.
Yeah.
And I was already on the way, and then they came to Australia. But Dad ended up having, I think, to drive cabs and that while he got into a position where he could actually go in and become a baker in Australia.
Okay. Interesting, mate. And what did your mum do as well?
Well, Mum worked in the shop.
Okay, in the bakery as well.
Yeah, so the two of them, she was front of house
and
he was the baker.
Yeah, perfect. Man, in terms of upbringing when you were young, and it's funny because obviously they had the family business there. Did you ever get brought into work in the family business, like sweeping floor? Here we go, sweeping floors, cleaning out the trays.
The younger two twins, they always go, "Oh, here's Dad going on again about back in my day," but it's true. Like there's a photo when we were kids.
Yeah,
we this was our situation when my parents came. Then Robbie, his second son, was born, and then Sandy, the third son.
Yeah.
3 of us shared a room above the shop.
Yeah.
Mum, Dad had another room, and then we had a kitchenette. That was it.
Yeah, right.
And it was on the main road in Willoughby. And that's how we grew up. So we grew up really, really like frugal.
Yeah.
And each Sunday I would have to go down and Dad cut the pie tops, but I'd have to stack the pie tops.
Yeah.
And when I got old enough, I could then actually use the meat machine, which is shot the meat into the pies and take them off. And
how many pies did you smack?
As in eating?
Yeah.
Oh, I love a pie. I really do. So, yeah. But these days it's all like, gourmet, tandoori chicken and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I love a pie.
Just a good old Aussie mince pie, yeah? It's all steak.
So we grew up working on the Sundays in the shop. So it was very much part of our day-to-day.
Yeah. Yeah. And they obviously instilled that in you to be working on the weekends. So it's funny, right? Because it's almost like a non-negotiable. I had the same thing. There's like, when you're at home on the weekends from school, there's the shed, then the shed's dirty. You got to go in and clean it. It's just part of the family. It's seen as like kind of part of the family thing, right? So you get taught that work ethic young. It's not like you start working at 21, 22 when you come out of uni. You're working at, you could be 8, 10 years old, but whether it's sweeping or cleaning it out or doing the pie tops or whatever it is, you're kind of getting that work ethic, side of things. Do they used to pay you a bit of pocket money, or is this part of the family?
Oh, no, I can't. Well, Mum's going to probably get upset and say, yes, we did. But I don't remember the pocket money side.
They paid you with love and pies.
Yeah, that's right. And these Harbour Bridge lollies that were covered in sugar and were probably like terrible for you.
Yes.
But we used to smash those regularly. Rob actually ended up going into the family business.
Yeah, right.
By the time I got to 18, it was like, I'm not doing this.
Okay. All right, sweet. Man, talk me through even from a career side of things, if you don't mind, like just digressing into that for a second as well. What did you get into and then over the years?
Can I even step back a bit? Because there's one thing that I've heard in some of the previous poddies, like Ella talked about it too, and I think a lot of people that work with you are people that will do those extra little things, and hustlers, I'd sort of call them.
Yeah.
And when I listened to Ella's podcast, probably for the third time, because I love some of those potties.
And Ella's a local to you as well, right?
Yeah,
you guys like 5 minutes from each other.
It brought back a couple of memories for me. One was like there was a shoe shop when in the old days we actually made shoes and repaired shoes. These days, if they're broken, you chuck them
out.
And he used to cut out kangaroo shapes out of cowhide.
Yeah, right.
And this is when I was in primary school. I'd buy them off him for 20 cents and go to school and sell them for 50 cents.
Yeah, right.
And just little things like that, you know. And later, when you talk about the career, I first of all went into retail and was working with Grace Brothers and as a cadet and all that sort of stuff. But
David Jones of today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, like when I was the manager of the toys, if somebody comes back with a broken toy, you don't send it back to the supplier because they can't be bothered fixing it.
Yeah.
They just go into a storeroom, the vendor comes in one day, marks it down, then it's basically worth no value.
Yeah.
Me and a mate got approval from security. Instead of going into the compactor, it went into the back of our cars.
Yeah.
We would then go home and fix them and take them to the local car boot sale and sell them on the weekend.
Really?
So it's sort of like that.
How do you make that extra bit of change, right?
Exactly,
right.
right.
I get you.
So I've always sort of had that little hustle sort of thing.
Man, I love that, right? And so often when you look at people that have made something of themselves, been hyper successful, different things, it was the same as Ella, right? She was finding what she could around the house and she'd sell even as a kid. And man, I know I used to get 2-3 jobs and, I didn't have enough money to get my next property. So I went and got a bar job so I could save up a bit more. And I was working like 3 sorts of things at a time. And I think it's a funny thing because, or it's an interesting thing to really, unpack, I think, because so many people today, they're kind of like, they expect to be able to just work the 9 to 5 and be cruisy, but then still be able to afford their home where they want to live and all the rest of it. But they don't unpack the fact that it's been hard, from the start through to when I went hard, and then Ella's a decade, beyond. She's literally almost bang on a decade younger than. I think we're literally a few days apart in 10 years, right? Apart from that side, and it doesn't matter at what time it is, in what generation, at whatever time it is. Like it's hard, and it takes graft, it takes hustle to be able to get to the point to do great things and to be able, like we've all gone on and done. And I think it's a funny thing, man. People, expect, or they say, oh, back in the day it was easier or whatever. It's like, it's always been hard to achieve great things. You know what I mean? That's why only so few people ever achieve it. But I think that it's almost like people think, it's almost like the further in that we get, further along we get, people expect that it should be, it's like the expectation is that it's easier, when in fact it's still the same. It's still the same amount of work and hustle and all the rest of it, especially to get started, let alone for it to snowball and build from there as well. So that's cool, man. That sort of the little entrepreneurial side and the hustle and the hard work side was there from the very, very start as well. So you were in there, you were working. Can I actually ask as well? Because I feel like there's two parts of you, like you've got that humble streak and you're trying to help everyone sort of thing, but I also know you got the competitive streak of wanting to build something big as well. You play sports when you were younger?
Oh, when I was younger.
Yeah. You're still playing, right?
That's right.
That's right. I forgot that.
So I started soccer when I was like 5.
Yep.
So I've been playing for 55 years consistent all the way through.
Yeah, right.
I also, in my 20s, started playing touch football.
Yep.
I still play that and at a rep level.
And you still play that with your sons, right?
Well,
Or the soccer's with the sons?
Well, both.
Okay.
And the touch is also with my daughter.
Yep.
So I've played both of those, but in competition, I've played union, tennis,
Yep.
skiing, table tennis, volleyball. I just love to compete.
How did you get into competitive table tennis? That's fascinating.
Well, I was working at a place and at Sterling Software where I met Gabriel, and we were just having a game, and this guy said, I didn't know this, but there's A grade, B grade and all this. And then they invited...
In table tennis?
Yeah.
Jimmy would know that.
Would he?
I reckon he would.
And I got invited up to the Forestville RSL and I had a game with a guy, and then he put me straight into A grade.
Really?
But the crazy thing was, so I only played one season because this gave me the shits. Oh, sorry, but I was playing this lady because it was mixed, but you had plus and minus, so it's handicap.
Okay.
And for a 21 game, I was like minus 12 and she was like plus 7.
Oh, so, what? So she'd almost already, it was just 3 points from a victory.
She was exactly. She was 3 points from a victory.
Yeah.
And I had to play her 3 games. And I went, oh, this is harsh.
Yeah. That's rough.
But so, you know, I do love my sports and I'll play pretty much anything.
But you reckon the old handicap rules in table tennis are a rort?
They were a rort. Definitely a rort.
Mate, we might have to bring that up with the commission. What do you reckon? So moving forward, man, you've jumped in. You're in your early 20s. You're working at Grace Brothers, David Jones today. And man, talk me through. Boom. At what point do we get to the first property, and how do you get into like what you're doing? You know, the software side of things as well, and how does that start building?
So without having 3 different jobs, I've had 3 different careers.
Okay.
So I did that for about seven years or so. And then I went to a career advisor, counselor type person. I said, look, I'm sort of not thinking that this is my thing that I want to do forever. And I still remember they said to me, you either move on. If you go into your 8th year, you'll stay for a long service.
Okay.
So either make the decision now or not. So seriously, it happened at a barbecue, a friend of my dad's. So my second career was process serving. Okay. Serving subpoenas on people.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. And I got some stories there too.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then I started my own business, which was Superior Process Serving.
Hang on, I don't want to hear the stories of the...
I'll tell you, but when Josh and Ricky were little, and they'd go, tell us another story, Dad, tell us another story. Like, a very quick one was down at Windang, which is down in Port Kembla.
Wollongong way, yeah.
The short version is that the door was on the side of the house. I was walking up, looking at the back fence because there's a big back fence there. I turned the corner. I nearly stepped on a Doberman. And he looked at me. We startled each other. Yeah. And I just took off back down the thing and I slammed the gate, but the gate shuttered and bounced open. The Doberman came through. I ran across the front lawn, jumped over the fence, Starsky and hutched across the front of the car, got into my car with the Doberman up on the window going like...
Going nuts. Yeah.
Going nuts. And then I took that back to GIO and said, look, no, I'm never going there again. There's those types of stories, you know.
That's hectic. Mate, that's good. I'm sure there's a few more. There's probably a little bit too R-rated for on here, right?
There's a couple of R-rated ones too.
You can tell me those off air. I want to hear them. Sweet, man. Okay, so that's your second career. And did you say you actually started a business in that as well?
Yeah, because there was a lot of work. There was a lot of people in the late 80s and early 90s that were making car crash claims. And there was like little groups,
Insurance
and
claims.
enclaves.
Yep.
So person A would have a claim and person B and C would be witness. And then person B would have a claim and A and C would be witness.
Wow.
And
Little racket.
it was a racket. And the GIO were starting to, at first they were paying out, and then after a while they started to investigate.
Yeah.
So then we did some investigations as well. But there was an exponential, there was increase in the work. So I did really well.
Yeah.
Like back in the 80s, I'd go down to Wollongong.
Yeah.
I get 1,500 for the day back in the 80s.
Whoa.
So I was doing pretty bloody well.
Yeah, bloody oath.
But then in the 90s, then it sort of, people got wary that this was happening and it started to dry up. And then, well, one day my boss went on leave. I took over. He said, Peter, come in and run the office for us. And that's just when computers were coming along. And I just had a natural affinity for computers.
Okay.
So then I went and did business programming on the back of that.
Yep.
And then I got into IT, and IT just is natural for me. It's what I should be in.
Okay. And how old were you at that stage?
So when I was 33 when I started study, so 35 when I finished and got my first job.
First job. Okay.
In IT.
Okay. In IT. Yeah.
And that, you know how you talk about what you can do? I actually took a big step down. I still remember I was getting like, that was in 96 or something, like 23 grand a year.
Yeah, right.
So I took a big step down, but then
what were you making before? Were you doing 1,500 a day?
When I
Making that
went to
in a month.
Wollongong, but
Yeah,
a normal year was closer to 100.
Okay. In the 80s. It's good money in the 80s for sure. Yeah, crazy, man, crazy. And so what age were you when you bought your first property? But this would have been a house, right? Like for yourself.
In 89,
Yep.
Lisa and I bought a house.
Yep.
But we sold that when we bought Newport, which was in 94. So that's technically the first one we bought.
Yep.
For me, then the first one after that was when I bought Mona Vale unit.
Yep.
Lovely, 50 metres from the beach,
Yep.
across from the golf course. And that we still have that today, and I've actually used that to strip equity out to fund a few other things now. So I still have that.
Okay.
So Mona Vale unit was my first me purchase.
Yep. Yeah, sweet. And sorry, at what point was that?
2002.
2002.
In fact, 20th of March 2002.
Is that yesterday? Day before? A couple of days ago.
Yeah.
There you go. So we're almost 23 years on from when it kind of all all started. Yeah, beautiful. Mate, walk me through, if you wouldn't mind, walk me through the journey from there. So that's the first one. When did you start investing? Because obviously you've built up a sizable portfolio. You had a fair few properties before you came to me as well. And we started working together, which was late 2023. Yeah. So mate, start walking us through the property journey and what was a turning point for you to want to get into investing? Because buying your own home is a different thing. What made you want to get into investing, at this point?
So when Gab and I bought Newport, so then after I separated from my first wife, got some payout, then Gab and I bought our PPOR. And then from there, I kept Mona Vale as an investment. So I wanted to.
How much did you pay for that?
$355.
What would that be worth now?
Oh, it's worth 1.160,
okay.
1.1 mil.
Yeah, beautiful. So it's tripled.
And I get calls all the time wanting people, the REs wanting me to sell it. But it's been a great vehicle then to strip some equity out.
Yep.
To then help us go forward with some other pieces.
100%.
So, but to actually answer your question about the journey, Gab and I are white collars, so we both had a corporate super.
Yep.
Hit by the GFC in 2008.
Okay.
Bang, half gone. So that's great, wonderful. So we then, there was just, I think when the self-managed supers were coming along, so we put in together. But again, it's this whole thing. I remember Jimmy and you talking about one potty where you said, you got to get, you can't kick a goal unless you get on the playing field, right?
Yeah.
We were on the playing field at that stage, but we were walking around while guys like Sammy Gordon were kicking hat tricks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I tell you, but I've only just started to run. 2024 is when we started to run.
Yeah, right.
So going back to
when you started acquiring hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So because then even with that in 2008, we didn't set the self-managed super up till 2010.
Yep.
And then we didn't buy the first property till 2014.
Wow. Why the lag?
I don't even really know. I can't remember.
Fear? Fear? Too
I don't
busy?
think it was fear. It was a bit of busyness, a bit of I really don't know.
Yeah.
Me now would never do that. We could, like everybody who meets you goes, oh, I wish I'd known you 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ago. And that's just, we're no different.
Yeah.
If I had your knowledge now, or even my knowledge now, then
Yes.
it wouldn't be a 11 property portfolio, it'd be 30 or something.
Yep.
So, but I did have Gab going, we need a strategy. We need it. And she knows I love numbers.
Yep.
I'm a numbers person.
Yeah, for sure.
Client. So she was sort of going, we need a strategy.
Yep.
And so we went to the financial advisors that help us set up the self-managed super, and then we bought that first or the next investment property. Yep. Which was just outside Brisbane at Marsden in 2014.
And that was the first one in the SMSF.
Yeah.
Now that was recommended by the financial advisor?
It was.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk me through? Do you want to talk me through starting the journey now? So we're going SMSF.
We'll go down some properties, but I want to circle back to that.
Yep.
So then, and we didn't buy. We bought that outright. We just
you bought it outright.
Yeah.
Really? Why?
So, well, I didn't know any better.
Okay. But didn't you have a financial advisor advising you?
Yes. And that's the difference.
We're getting some laughs in the studio here.
Yeah. That's the difference between a financial advisor and you'll get me worked up. Okay. I'll go all bull shark in a minute.
Here we go.
It really burns me up that they just had this nice little path, get one now, a couple of years later you can get another one, and that's the way they sort of thought about it.
Yeah.
So then we bought our next one from them in 2016, so 2 years later, the Salisbury Downs one, which is just outside Adelaide, for $335.
Okay.
Now we did buy one.
Sorry, what did you pay for Marsden?
Marsden we paid $320,
and that was a townhouse, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
And then Salisbury Down was $335 2 years later.
Yep.
Now this is the thing.
You're whispering. This must be top secret.
In between, we bought a property at Raceview.
Yes.
Outside the SMFS, just our own property.
Okay.
And as an investment. So then
Raceview being out near Ipswich in Brisbane.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we bought that in 2015 for $320 as well.
Okay. Was that also a recommendation, or that was you guys doing your own thing? Okay.
So at that stage, we bought 3 through them.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just go forward a little bit. So I'm sitting at a family barbecue, and I did introduce my brother Rob to the self-managed super people, and they, unbeknownst to me, they'd recommended Tim. So we're sitting around at a barbecue, and Rob says, I've got a place in Salisbury Downs. I'm going, oh, we do too. I've got a place in Raceview. And I'm going, we do too. That's when it occurred to me, the financial advisors, so I had this light bulb moment, that there's different moments you have along the way.
For sure.
They weren't targeting what was best for us. They were targeting what was best for them.
Yep.
They had a bunch of properties, so they sold them to their clients.
Yep.
Clearly, in Raceview and Salisbury Downs were two of the places. To add sort of insult to injury on that, with the numbers I brought along today, I've got all the dates that we started.
Yeah.
Then I drew a line in the sand at about 2021, and then what it is now.
Yeah.
Salisbury Downs and Marsden between 2014
and 2021 did nothing.
Nothing, like zero.
Yes.
So we bought these two places.
So you had a 7-year window where Sydney and Melbourne doubled and Hobart doubled.
Yeah.
And those ones didn't move.
Our Newport place went up 193% and Monavale went up 179%. And those two places went up 19% in 7 years.
Crazy. Yep.
So it's insane. So, as you've talked about on the podcast before about the 7 to 10 year cycle.
Yeah.
Yes, that might be true, but it's not even.
No.
It's
It's typically more like it's never a 7, right? It's more like a 10 or 11 to 14 year cycle between like peaks or troughs. And if you miss that peak, and you sit in the trough window like you did, the crazy thing is it would have been other people who would have bought in 08, 09, 2010, same markets, same time frame, same advice from the similar people. And it would have been like, there could be 10, 12 years of nothing in that time. I know 100%. We actually bought deals in RaceView for clients in 2019, 2020, 2021 that had gone backwards. They bought them off these style of people for 400, 450K, and we're buying for sub 300 grand 10, 12 years later. Like they'd made like a 20, 30% loss on them in that time frame, for exactly that reason. And I think this is why the industry went through a massive shakeup, and it's actually why a lot of advisors don't recommend property so much anymore, because they were taking these huge kickbacks. So it was a super vested interest, which is the craziest thing, because they're the only people licensed to actually give you financial advice, but then they were allowed to have these vested interests and get kickbacks. Like, it made absolutely no sense. Yeah, man. And unfortunately, the people that missed out, the only people getting rich out of all this was the advisors taking their massive kickbacks.
And in those days, now, because when we got offered the one in 2023 before we came on board with you, they then had a buyer's arm. But back in those days, they didn't have a buyer's agency. Mm-hmm. They didn't need one either. Mm-hmm. They could just say, just here you go, here's a property. Yeah. And because they're giving you the strategy, you go, yeah, okay.
And so was it still a new build, the one in 2023?
No, it was
established.
Yanchep was established.
Okay.
But Salisbury Downs was a house and land.
Yep.
So that was
and Marsden was a townhouse. And RaceView was a house and land.
It was established.
Oh, it was established. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. All right, interesting.
So there's like when I went through the School of Property, that's one of the things.
Yeah.
Don't buy house and land.
Yeah. I think one of the other things to know, just for everyone to know, like no financial advisors are allowed to actually recommend these style of products anymore, being the new builds and whatnot, because of that specific item. But it doesn't mean people like accountants, brokers, all these sorts of guys that are also in the industry, even some buyers agents that tout themselves as buyers agents, if they're selling like brand new house and lands, or that's the packages they're putting together, just be super aware that like these are the sorts of things that I was being, like when I first started in the industry, I had everyone in the game trying to hit me up, offering me like $40,000 to $60,000 kickbacks on these deals to do these deals, these new builds, and they build it into the contract prices that the client pays for. So just be super wary of anything. I know obviously I've been through it many times, but yeah, you guys were obviously examples of that, and in that time frame having no growth over that period of time as well.
Yeah. So and then after that, so like from the School of Property, like I was a poster boy. I felt like that for the School of Property of things not to do, because Sammy would be there on the screen. Now don't do this, and I go, oh shit, I've done that. And in the case of buying from a financial advisor, we did that 3 times. Yeah. So then buying house and land, we did that twice. Yeah. So I really knew how to not do the right thing by Sammy Gordon School of Property. But then the hat trick was,
here we go.
The last one that we bought before meeting up with you is because after that Salisbury Downs RaceView thing, I thought, no, they're not thinking about us. Yeah, we need to think about us. So then I started to look at it myself, the market in Queensland, and I was every day research. Yep. Then I'd fly up here on a weekend and I'd organise a schedule. Yep. Going around different properties,
inspecting things. Yeah.
And then I did that trip 3 times, Saturday and Sunday, just looking at properties, and in a month apart. And then on the 3rd trip, I found one that I thought was
a winner.
Yeah, right. Gabrielle hates it because it's got a pond and a pool, and she gets calls about fronds falling in the pool. But the property itself, we bought in 2018 for $440. Okay. It's now worth $850. Yep. So to the end of 2024, so in that 6-year window, it's gone up $400,000. Yeah. So that's a win to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I did that
yourself,
myself.
Yeah, 100%.
But having now done the School of Property, so many things come to mind. Let the experts do it. I can't get access to an off-market deal. So any deal that I looked at had to be already on the market. Yep. So straight up, I'm not looking at the same level of property that you're looking at.
Same deal vault that we are.
Yeah. And then I probably spent the best part of 15K traveling up and down.
Yeah. Plus your time and the stress that comes with it as well.
Yeah. So realised so that was my hat trick of things not to do in the Sammy School of Property.
The hat trick, the trifecta, I love it. And that was a Marumba Downs deal?
No,
that's different. That's a build.
That's a different.
So where was that one?
That was at Thornside.
Of course. Okay, Thornside. Yep.
Sort of southeast-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. And man, what did you pay for that?
$440.
And value now $850. You said
$850.
Okay, cool.
So at that stage, that's all that we'd done ourselves.
Yep.
So we had 6 properties.
Yep.
I mean, and at the
so
end
which one am I missing here? I got Mona Vale, Marsden, Salisbury, Raceview, Thornside. What's the 6th one?
Newport.
Oh, Newport. Okay, still got Newport. Oh, sorry. So you kept Mona Vale as a unit, as an investment, and then Newport's a primary residence.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Makes sense.
So we had the 6 there. And at the end of 2023, so the whole portfolio was worth about $6 million.
Yep.
And we had about 4.4 of equity.
4.4 of equity.
Yeah.
At the end of 2023. Okay.
Which is gonna explode. Not your mind because you've seen it, but when you see what we've done in 2024 alone, it's crazy.
Sorry, just to recap, can you just give me that again? Portfolio value was
$6 million.
$6 million, and equity or debt position was 4.4.
Equity.
Equity. Oh, because obviously you've got your Sydney ones of say Newport and Mona Vale have had huge cycles, and the others would have started their run by then as well. They would have had good growth at that point because of COVID specifically with Southeast Queensland and Adelaide as well having their run.
And that's exactly why I chose that as a point, because that was at a point where the Sydney market started to slow down and these other ones started
to take off.
Yep. So Thornside, Raceview, Marsden, they all then took off between 21 and 24.
Yeah.
They did their big run, but just in 3 years, the previous whatever was
7
zero.
years was dead, Yep. Okay, makes sense. All right, beautiful, man. So talk to me, I guess, about like light bulb moments to this point. Obviously, we got the thing, you got your trifecta, your hat trick that you just ran off then. But then, man, anything else that sort of came in that window, you know, or any other things that happened in that environment before you start working with APS?
Not on a business side, but there were things that happened on a personal side.
Anything you want to go into?
Yeah, a bit, because I think it's key for our family, and I understand when we got to the 2024 summit.
Yes,
100%. Like when Jimmy was going on, Circle of Influence, and that's. But a lot of what when we talk about Circle of Influence, we're talking about don't let the negatives come in.
Yeah.
But I felt that I was the inverse of that. I was letting the positives go out.
Yeah, right.
Involving, my sons and my mum and my brother and the nephews and things like that. So I understand that, I feel the reason I got the mentorship in the first place was because of Circle of Influence.
Yeah.
Now then it comes back to then why do I have that Circle of Influence? And there's a key time in our life, as I mentioned in the beginning, we had there was 3 brothers. Peter, Robbie, Sandy.
Yeah.
4 years between each. Our youngest brother, when he was down at Canberra University, he's 21. He complains about pains in his sides, and he essentially gets misdiagnosed, and he had a cyst on his small intestine. Won't go into it too much, but we also have a family thing about protein C deficiencies, which create clotting.
Okay.
He then had 3 major operations in 4 days and went from 90 kilos down to 60.
Jesus.
And to make matters worse, Robbie and I were back in Sydney, but our parents were overseas.
Yeah.
We're 20-year-olds. We don't have, we got doctors saying we've got to operate, we're going, whatever. We can't. Yes, do whatever you got to do.
Yeah. Not realising the severity of the situation, is that what you're so saying? Yeah.
And then he lost his small intestine, and then he had to go to Canada to get a transplant. The whole point is that at the millennium, when the millennium, when we kicked over from into the new millennium,
Yeah.
our whole family was around Sandy in his bed.
Yeah.
And because he was in ICU, he couldn't see the fireworks, so I had a little TV I was holding up so he could see the fireworks.
Yeah.
And he then passed away the next day on the 1st of 1st, 2000.
Oh, wow.
With us around the bedside, which was just stopped breathing. So it was very hard for us.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man.
And so it was shattering for my mum, especially because she'd been so tight. She went to Canada with him and spent 2 years with him while he got the transplant and everything. But the key for us, bringing it back to, there's two things about it. One, I remember Sandy saying to me towards the end, you've only got one life to live, so make sure you're doing what you want to do and live your life. And the second outcome of that whole scenario is it brought our family so much together as a solid unit, you know. We would do anything for each other, and that's why when I got involved with APS, my first thought was the family.
Helping the family.
Mum, brothers, everybody. And that Sandy passing was a key moment in our family to really, it's a bad way for it to happen, but, you know, it was a key moment in bringing us together. And I'm going to take 10 seconds out to give a little tribute to him. He was school captain. He played Jesus in Godspell. He was in the band and in the first 15 and nearly ducks to the school. He was, and the nicest guy to boot. And then somewhere in the galaxies, they decided to take him early, which is criminal. So,
man, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's wild to hear a story like that, man, of crazy hardship for you guys, and the fact of like, what are the chances of the first 2000 as well? That being that kind of almost like turning point, defining point for yourself and the family, man, and it makes a lot of sense why, like especially him having those kind of final moments with you as well, saying what he did, and the way that you really look at helping everyone. It actually makes a lot of sense now from that end, because it's very rare to get anyone who tries to get everyone involved as you do and try and like really wants to see the best for everyone, especially in your circle. So man, I really appreciate you sharing that. I know it must be hard to talk about that side of things as well, man. It must be pretty deep within you.
It is, but I try to look back on all of that when us growing up and just positive memories about that. There's one little story that Mum used to tell all the time, which doesn't paint me in the best light, but what the hell?
We've got those ones that Mums like to tell.
Yeah. So, because there used to be conscription way back. I was never around when that happened, but it was a possibility. It's something you had to think about. And Mum used to always trot out this story. She said, if my three sons were conscripted, Rob would be on the front line fighting, Sandy would be in jail as a conscientious objector, and Peter would be working in supply and logistics doing deals somewhere. I thought, Mum, like, maybe I would have gone out and fought, but she's probably right, because it's that whole hustler, you know.
Yeah, making things happen in the background, right?
Yeah.
That's funny, man. That's crazy. Crazy story, and that just popped into my head a reminder of, you talk about your parents, right, telling you stories and stuff. And my dad, when he was, he was a mechanic, I'm pretty sure at the time, and he was sitting there as I was reading out the birth dates, right? Because it was your birth date in specific. No, it wasn't even the month. I'm pretty sure it was the dates, and they read out the dates for Vietnam. And I remember my dad sitting there in the mechanic shop with his best mate listening, and the dates went either side of both him and his best mate. And I always remember that story of just like, how wild is that? And that's Vietnam, going back 50 years or whatever. But it's like wild to think that it was, even that recently, because I was thinking World War II, which was 40s, but man, it was obviously more recent. It's crazy to think about that was in like a generation that's within exactly. Our time.
Because it was, I think it was around 60s. I was born in the 60s, so obviously I was too young, but it was something that could potentially have happened to us. Thankfully it didn't, but I just couldn't imagine.
Wild, man. Wild. Conscriptions are crazy to think about. Think about that was actually a thing, mate, like forcing people to go and fight. It's it's crazy, man. It's crazy, but mate, it tells it's a very telling story, I think, as to why you do what you do and keep pushing forward and all the rest of the sort of thing as well. And again, from the family, as family, and helping them as much as possible too. So again, Matt, I really appreciate you sharing that side of things. And then moving from there, and that kind of makes sense why that whole circle of influence and everyone around you, you know, kind of feeding off that side of things as well. If you don't mind, kind of, I guess, pushing forward to then how you came into touch with APS and everything as well. You want to tell us a story around that and how all that came to be as well?
Yeah. So we knew we were ready to. This is 2023, and just by the way, so we'd bought the previous one 5 years earlier.
Yeah, right. The last one,
like Thornside,
was in 2018.
Yeah,
that was the last deal.
That was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then in 2023, but the financial advisors didn't say come to us.
Yeah.
We went to them and said we want to buy another property.
Why the gap? Why? Because no one probed you to go again.
Nobody probed us to.
Okay.
So we.
And you weren't seeing gains, so it wasn't like you were frothing.
That's right. I was looking at Marsden had done nothing and Salisbury down had
nothing.
So it wasn't like top of mind.
Yep.
Again, put my head in that body. It's different. My current head.
Yep.
So we.
It's got a weird image that just came in my head just then, but.
So 2023, we go to them and say we want to buy a property.
Yep.
And they presented one to us in Yanchep, which is north of Perth.
Yep.
And then we went to. Gab and I went to sleep. We said we've essentially accepted it between us. We said yes. We went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I was saying, I'm looking at this deal. It's a deal. It's just run of the mill.
Yeah.
5% return on investment. In 2 years' time, it'll go up by 50. I'm going, man, it's no better than Thornside.
Yeah.
So, and prior to that, I'd had Nikki, my Campbell's mum, my good friend. She's going, Sammy Gordon, APS, and it was hard to run with it because she hadn't actually joined herself, which I chip her about all the time.
Yeah.
But she had other things going on in the background.
She had so much going on for ages, right, to try and get all the balls.
But she was trying to do the right thing by us.
Yeah.
But so we went, this Yanchep one it's straight run of the mill. So then I got in touch with you through Nick, and we had a session in late 2023.
Yep.
I got presented a deal, which then we settled on in February 24.
Okay.
Which is like just before, because that was a pivotal moment too, which I'll get to in a sec. So that was we ended up settling in Byford, and at that stage I was just Peter getting a deal through APS. I didn't know, my ass from my elbow, that sort of thing. It settled, and we bought that for $467. Immediately it was built in 2023, but the people had to go overseas quickly. A classic APS, off market, it's got to be done quickly. It immediately rented for $650. Which is crazy. That's like a 7.2% gross yield straight off the bat. And I looked at that. I did some numbers on all the other deals that we did. The best initial yield that we got was actually the one I got in Thornside at 5.7. Everything else was below 5.5 or below.
And especially the ones like Marsden would have Body Corp on it as well. So you were smashed by that.
And then here I get presented by this one at APS, and it's 7.2.
Straight off the bat.
Oh, yeah. This is nuts. And then I heard about School of Property. I started doing that. And then I heard about this mentorship. And like, as Gabriel says to me, when I'm around and it's property, I love talking it. I love it. I love researching. I love doing everything to do with it. So when this mentorship potential came up, I smashed through the School of Property, not rush through it like you might do an exam or something. I consumed it. I loved it. I did some of the modules, 2 and 3 times, the ones that were key. And I'd had it done in about 3 weeks, and then I got into the year as many APS people as I could, not the least of which is your pending mother-in-law. And said, I need to be there. I don't have that much. I need.
You're one of Michelle's most favored clients. I'd put it that way.
Good, excellent. I love Michelle. I love talking to her too. She's Gab once referred to her as my property wife.
Not even the work wife, the property wife.
Yeah,
I love it.
So
you run a lot of wives there, mate.
Yeah, too many. So we, I I wanted to get that mentorship because after doing the School of Property, I could see that it was all wrong. The structure was wrong and what we were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
And I needed to get to be a mentee.
And even the lack of game plan, right, that you had like to date.
So I needed to get to you so that I could straighten this out. Because unlike Josh and Ricky and all my boys, they've got many years and I'm going to help them all the way through. Yeah. But I needed something like right now. Yeah. So I had a shiver when you announced my name there, and Campbell was beside me, and he actually pinged it. He said that halfway through that speech that you guys were giving, Campbell turned to me and said, they're talking about you. And I went, and then when you said it, so that was brilliant. Because
was it the 65 years old? Is that what pinged it for you, that it was you?
Well, I thought I wasn't there because you got my age wrong. But, you know, like even for that, Campbell and I were sitting right down the front.
Yeah.
We just see it as an investment. So we got paid the extra to
be at the front of the room. Yeah, for sure.
And get the extra chats with you, and not just you, but Paulie and everybody else, and Terry and the gang, and JT and just everybody.
Yeah.
So when it was read out, I knew then that we could do something really good.
Yeah.
Not the least of which, there was things that I was doing wrong, like apart from the trifecta I already talked about, we were smashing through the Salisbury Down property and paying it off.
Yeah, right.
I was unaware that you couldn't pull equity out of a property in self-managed super.
Yep.
So we were a couple of $100,000 ahead. We only, by the time we got to the chat with you, we only had like 70 grand left on it to pay out.
Yeah.
Because I'd been paying, or we'd been paying to try. Then I was going to leverage that.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if you know, but now we're jumping. We had the strategy session in May.
Yeah.
And that's when you
Sorry, that you can or can't access equity in.
You can't.
Yes, sorry, you said that you can.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, that you can't. You can't actually refinance equity out of SMSF. Yeah.
I tried, and then they're going, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going, shit. Well, why have I been paying all this money extra? Because I want access to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we sat down with. Shall I start on our
yeah,
journey?
Let's go. I mean, one crazy thing to touch on there, right? And this is why you've got to be extremely careful who you take advice from, because, like, first of all, you buy Marsden in your SMSF at full purchase price with no debt, which is not smart, right? In reality, and no offense to you, because you guys don't know what you're doing. You're giving this financial plan by someone to go and buy these deals.
We could have bought 2 or 3 places.
That easy, 320 grand back then. Like, with buying that in cash, like you could have easily leveraged and bought 3 deals at a 70, 80% LVR. Yeah. But then the fact that you then also bought Salisbury, and then you're paying it down during that time frame as well. It's like, how much of a leveraged position could you be in, or could you have been in, if you've been given the right advice all the way back then? And the crazy thing, once again, like I say, these are the only guys in the game that are allowed to actually give you advice, and they're not even giving you the correct advice. Like, it blows my mind, man. It kills me, right? Like, from exactly this piece. And then again, you think you can strip equity, you haven't been given the correct advice once again that you can't do it until we sit down and have the chat, and I'm like, man, you can't pull it back out. There's only one way forward here. So,
and they didn't say that I could. They just didn't give me anything.
Exactly. But that's as bad as, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if someone is inexperienced, you don't give them a game plan. What are they going to do? They're going to do what they think is the right thing to do, and which is often not right.
So then you and I had this strategy session in May.
Yep.
And the first thing you said was, we've got to sell one of these down. And you looked at it and said, the one that's most likely at the peak of its, the 12 o'clock or even a bit after, was Salisbury Downs, which we then sold. And a quick shout out to Rick Schultz. He did a fantastic job down there. Like, we were, to tell you the sell price, I talked to a couple of people down there, did my research on it, and they were saying 580 to 6, maybe 610, but Rick got 622 and a half.
Yeah, beautiful.
So that was great. And take off the 70. Of course, there's some tax, but it's in the self-managed super.
So it's minimal.
We had about 550.
Beautiful.
Of which then, and your strategy was then take 1 and buy 3, which we've...
Let's multiply it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like one place in a stagnant market versus 3 places in a rising market. Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And I think the other conversation around this too was the fact that, like, whilst it may not be like fully at the point of potentially top of cycle or even close to it or whatever, it's the velocity of money of having 550 grand tied up in one deal, like you got out of the back of that, in a market that's either at the top, near the top. You know, it's hard to call at an exact time where something is exactly at the top, but undoubtedly near the top. And it's like what we could do with that, leveraging that into other marketplaces and 3xing that return. But three properties versus the one, three properties potentially a lot earlier in the cycle than the one at or near the top. It's a no-brainer, right, to go through that process.
Yeah, exactly. And that part, the strategy was twofold. There was also to get another one in an accelerated
down a creative lending route.
Creative lending. Yeah.
Yep.
And we did that at the end of last year as well.
Yep.
In the SMF, we just got the third one at the beginning of this year.
Yep.
So, and we did the other two last year.
Talk me through those ones. So we did Byford, WA, 467, 650 a week rent. Even if you quickly run through it, I mean, talk about locations, but the next three. So we've done a sell down of Salisbury.
Yep.
So we've cleared that, and then we've picked up properties 8, 9, and 10 are another round of SMSF.
Yes. In the chronological order, it went 8, 9, creative lending, then 10.
Okay. Let's do it then. Let's go the 8, 9, creative lending, 10. Oops.
Okay. So 8 was in the new secret sauce place.
We are.
Bought for $525.
Yep.
Rented immediately for $660 at a gross yield of 6.5.
Bloody hell. Yep.
The secret sauce number 2 was a little bit late, not too long after that one, was $562.
Mm-hmm.
Rented for $690 at 6.4% yield.
$562 renting for $690.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then the creative lending, because the creative lending one is also a manufactured cash flow deal.
Okay.
So we bought the property. You guys found it for us, and we have it now. So the creative lending one was $493 and rented immediately for $595 at 6.3 gross yield. Mm-hmm. But it has a capacity, and we actually stripped some money we got sitting in the offset from Monaval to then do the build on that block of land.
Okay.
Which, because it's in the secret sauce place where you're doing build, you're, paving the way, so to speak.
Yep.
So that's something that we will be looking at.
Yep.
Going forward.
Yeah, 100%.
But even that one as a manufactured cash flow deal, still 6.3 gross yield, which is still better than anything we've done prior.
Yeah, that's 6.3 on purchase, just of the deal, let alone the obviously the manufactured cash flow route will go down of the build process, right? Yep.
Exactly. And then the third one in the third
which
secret
is back
source.
in the SMSF.
Yep, back in the SMFS was $500.
Yep.
And rents for $570.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, beautiful. Mate, how do you feel? Because some people have a avoidance of wanting to double down or triple down on a singular location. Why do you have the confidence to back me on an ultimate up and coming location with 3 deals in the same spot? Talk me through that.
2 things on that. Are we also later going to cover some of the family purchases last year?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, if you want.
I do, because there's 2024 was crazy for the Wandls, right?
Yeah.
So I want to cover. So there's one story in that
half of Australia.
Yeah. So after we bought Byford, right?
Yeah.
So that was just like, wow, this deal's almost too good to be true,
Yeah.
So then when we started to
almost a fugazi.
Yeah. When we started to get the secret sauce ones come through, I actually said to you, and you said, look, we got 2 secret sources. And I said, could we
Everyone's going to be Google mapping secret sauce. Is this actually a place? Or
with dollar signs on it. And I said, could we get another one in Perth? Because I had this idea. And I got off the phone with you.
Yeah.
And Gab says,
I remember.
Yeah, Gab ripped me. Goes, Gab's in the studio, by the way. So she goes, why are you doing that? He knows. He got us Byford.
Yeah.
Why second guess where he's going to go?
Yeah.
And that's when I went, you're right. And I texted you that same day.
Yeah, I remember.
And said, you do whatever you think. So I'm just like Ella and everybody that have done good things with you.
Yeah.
We put with our faith in you, and it's shown out. Your worst deal is still better, miles better than our best deal prior to that. So I just trust you guys that it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because now the creative lending was in the same area, so we now have 4 in that area.
Beautiful.
Too bad. It doesn't matter if it's going up.
Yeah.
All the better. 4 places going.
Mate, this is one of the things, right? Like, I actually love that you touched on that and went into it as well, because like something that I thought was intelligent when I was younger, and this is the benefit, this is the beauty of and the benefit of everyone that gets to work with obviously APS and myself and the learnings that I've taken away from so many things is people think you need to diversify, right? But ultimately, there's typically only like 2 or 3 locations potentially at any one time in Australia performing better than everyone else, right? Like they're performing at maximum tilt. And I always thought, oh no, it's better just to like hedge your bets and like have good diversification, have a property here, property there, or 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, or whatever. And I realized after Sydney that I should have just gone harder in Sydney. And then I bought a couple in Adelaide, a couple of Brizzy. And then before Brizzy went, I was like, I kind of got the feeling for it in terms of this, right? But it wasn't until Perth that I realized this properly of you can kind of hedge your bets around the place. But ultimately, what's going to give you the biggest and best return is if you know somewhere or 1 or 2 locations in particular are absolutely going to send, why would you not double down there? Especially if there's up and comers. Okay, sweet. Well, if you've got up and comers that aren't taking off just yet, then it's down a route of let's double down on where we know is going to take off now. And when they have that ability and they have that equity and we can pull that out straight away, or we have that ability to pull it out ASAP, we can pull that out and throw it more into the up and coming. And it all depends on what you need in the portfolio right now. But I realized this when I was in Brisbane, and then I was always like, I should have done more in Brizzy when Brizzy took off, And I still did a lot. I did, I don't know, 15 odd deals or something over probably like an 18-month window. And then when I went to Perth, I went ham. But then even when I went to Perth, I was like, I found myself starting to hedge a bit into regional Queensland ahead of time when Perth just started taking off. And then a lot of Perth did like 100 and depending on areas, 100 to 120, 30, some properties 150% over like a 3-4 year window. And then so when I found these new locations and like proper up and comers, proper new locations that I could just see were turning, and then you could just see there's like a few locations in Australia that are going to be the best performers in the next window. I was just like, I gave myself, I think it was like 3 months, and I was first in there, and it was a place no one was talking about, had been in doldrums for ages. Everyone was talking shit on it. And I was just like, I'm just going ham here. And I remember when we had that conversation, I was like, this is the place to go ham. Like, let's set you up properly in here because it's making so much sense. That's when you're like, we got the buy-in, and thankfully we got Gab on my side as well, making sure we go all in rather than hedging a little. But yeah, man, I know what those properties have already produced now in like a 3 to 6 month window, but what they're going to produce over the next 2, 3, 4 years as well is going to be life changing, And I know this is the biggest thing of you in your journey now and what you're trying to achieve in the time frame you're trying to achieve it. Going all in on locations that we know are going to give us an epic result is key. And then, like, yes, some hedging comes in at different points. And obviously we hedge into different cash flow deals, and there'll be a time where we pivot into other locations in different locations as well. But what I find is when you're all in on a location makes so much sense. And what I realized was I would put all this time into an area and then figure it out and go, yes, I'm comfortable to buy there, but then only buy like 1 or 2 when like it might have taken me 3 to 6 months to get to a position to be comfortable enough to buy. And it's like, well, if you've got the capacity to do 4 or 6 deals in one location that you're hyper confident in, go all in, and because there's only going to be 1 place or 2 places that outperform. And we're going to look back at the end of this year, at the start of 2025, and I would probably put $1 million on this, that location will outperform every other location this year.
Wow. I hope it
will be the highest performing market this year out of everywhere else. And we're in there way before everyone else. But watch at the end of this year, the way that plays out.
Yep. I'm ecstatic to hear that, and I'm sure that'll ease Gab's mind about our debt load. But Paulie D said a similar thing to me, like when one of our chats, he said, I'm buying and I'm going to buy again and again in the secret source location because we believe in it. And it doesn't matter that we've got a lot, that he had a lot, was aiming for a lot there.
Yeah. Because
exactly as you said, if it goes off, which you're predicting it will, it's just more places you got in the place it goes off.
Yeah.
The second thing I'd actually say is because we've got 4 now in the secret source location, we have diversification anyway because we've got 4 around Brizzy, 2 in Sydney and 1 over in Perth.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of diversification already.
Well, over a 11 property portfolio, we've got a third in one location, right? Like that's not the end of the world of a portfolio of that size. And if you actually look at the value side, you have a much higher exposure in Sydney compared to that. Even though you got 2 in Sydney compared to 4 there, you probably got double or maybe nearly 3 times the value in Sydney compared to there anyway. So it's all relative, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. Mate, I realized that we left one property out of the mix, being the Marumba Downs build. You want to talk me through that side of things?
Yeah,
when was that? When was actual purchase of that? I don't remember.
You can't believe this. Like the house is lovely. I think did I send you a picture from the back? It overlooks the North Pine River. Okay. It's beautiful. Like
I've seen a lot of things, man. I'm sure I could believe this one.
But we first investigated. This is when I was looking myself.
Okay.
Again,
around Thornside time, or this is later?
After Thornside.
Yep.
So it was 2021.
Oh, okay. So you've gone on a scouting trip again.
Yeah. So we've put Thornside aside. Yeah, exactly. So now you've pointed out that I actually have done that mistake twice. Thanks. I only thought I'd done it once.
That's all right, mate. You're welcome. Like I said, there's not much I haven't seen.
So we started with them.
Yeah.
I won't mention any names, so I can be honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had some issues with not flooding, but they had to do the right amount of work to ensure that it wouldn't happen. And that basically had to go through council, and that essentially took 2 years. So we were even thinking of moving up
Hang on,
there.
this wasn't through them again?
No.
Okay,
no. Different company.
Oh, okay, different company.
We were looking around. We nearly bought one in Pimpana. We just passed on the way.
Yeah.
And we thought, I don't know. But then we settled on this one. If you'd looked, the original price was going to be, so the stats we did it off were that it's going to cost about $820 to build.
Okay.
It would then be available, well, at the end of the build, it would be worth around $1 million.
Total cost, including land and build,
Yes.
$820. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
And then the rental appraisal we got was about $1,050. So the numbers stacked up.
Yeah.
But a number of things happened between then. We had a couple of variations on the build that we couldn't really avoid.
Yep. Especially in that time, that was an extremely rapid build price increase.
Yeah, exactly.
Timeframe.
And that was the key one.
Yeah.
So the build ended up going to $896.
Okay.
The rents in the area suppressed a bit, and we've now just renting it at $950,
okay,
which is good. But then also the real one is the
value.
The interest rates increases too. So that's hit us with the serviceability. That's what it's sort of just making it harder to really run in 2025, the same as 2024.
Yeah.
So we started in 2021, signed in 22 for a 23 finish, which then went out to the back end of 24.
Yeah.
And so it was already in play.
Yeah.
And
3 year project for a build. What do you reckon that's worth now?
Oh, I've had it valued. There's also a couple of places just around the corner.
Yeah.
It's over $1 million. It's like $1.50.
Okay. Can I ask you what your thoughts are on that?
In general, don't do a house and land build. Just don't.
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes you out of the market. Even though you're only paying the full mortgage
at the end,
you're paying the interest on the construction all the way through.
The land. Yeah.
And the land, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've been paying bills since 2022.
That $896, does that include your interest costs over that whole period as well?
No.
Okay.
So exactly.
Yeah. And I don't mean that to, I don't do any of this sort of stuff, like bring up points like to rub it in your face, right? I'm gonna make a clear point here though. That if you factor that into the equation as well, right, that would be circa $950K over that interest cost over a 3-year hold period. And your val's at $1,050,000. So you're up $100,000 in 3 to 4 years on a deal like that. Let me ask you a simple question. Even Thornside, at that time, if we're talking 2021, if you'd bought that and paid another $100,000 for it, you would have made $300,000 in the same time frame on an established thing without the headache of a build.
True.
Byford bought at the end of 2023, paid $467. What would that be worth now?
That is valued at conservative $575. So it's
mate, that's a lot more than that. Byford.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Again, I'm being a little bit conservative, but that in less than a year's gone up over 100.
Just that as a direct comparable of $100,000 on a deal that you just bought compared to something that's taken you 3 to 4 years plus the headache of the build and the delays. And I'm sure it's stressful when build price increases come through. You're holding it with no rental income in all that time frame as well. You made the same money on over a 3 to 4 year window as opposed to, let's say, a Byford in 12 months. It had rental income the whole time frame as well and no stress. Exactly. You know what I mean? And like the reason I bring it up, it's for a lesson, right? So it's a lesson for the listeners in the essence of like, people always think there's money in builds and going down that avenue and going down that route and we'll do this or do that. And I've spoken about the velocity of money before, and I've spoken about why I don't think developing makes that much sense. To genuinely make serious money in development, you have to really intimately understand the product, the price point, how long it is literally going to take to turn it around. Because like companies like that, especially through like a house and land package sort of style person, they're always going to give you best case scenario. They're never going to give you worst case until you sign the contract. And it's like, oh, hang on a sec. By the way, until you've say settled on the land and you got to go through the build anyway. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because, and again, man, it's like, it's all lessons, right? That you kind of learn through these side of things. But I would be able to put money on the fact that you would never go down the route of building a house and land package again, with this side of things. And this is the whole point of this podcast. It's to part, especially with investor stories, man. Jimmy and I can talk till the cows come home, about this sort of stuff and all the rest of it. But sometimes it's when you have, a bloke that's had a really big crack here, or a couple that's had a really big crack here at creating, such a mad journey for yourselves and create something for yourselves, obviously, when you get to the back end. But learning from the mistakes that you make on the way through. And so like all this sort of stuff, you wouldn't have pulled the trigger on majority of those or any of those deals, obviously if we'd been working together, or probably even if you'd just been listening to the podcast. And I think this is the biggest thing and especially School of Property as well. Like you said, so many things you went through, you're like, oh yeah, I'm ticking that box of mistake. But ultimately it's like, it's set you up to be able to give your boys the right advice, pass on like crazy advice and the learnings to clients as well. And sometimes like, as I said, like Jimmy and I can talk about it and try and tell people the things to do and not to do and all the rest of the thing. But until we actually have in black and white the differences between what's done in these timeframes versus going and doing these things from people who had vested interests, and even that doing that yourself, of thinking that's the right pathway and the right strategy and whatnot. Man, this is where this like the value that we can pass on to people by giving them these lessons and learnings, man, is so powerful. So it's cool, man. It's not like the cool thing is as well, probably the best thing is like you haven't lost any money out of these deals. And if you look at the time frame of hold, and even though some of these have been a 10, 11 year hold, those 10, 11 year holds have all doubled, right? So you've still done, or Marsden would have gone pretty close to doubling, I think, but Salisbury Downs would have doubled. Raceview would have close to doubling. Dawnside close to doubling. So you've seen great result over this time frame, but it's the lessons and the learnings and going through it and understanding the mistakes. So both yourself, your kids, and then obviously, thankfully the listeners get to benefit from it as well, of the things not to do.
Exactly. And like you mentioned there a couple of times, I heard on one of the other podcasts somebody say, it's not wins and losses, it's wins and learnings. That's your W and your L. And you take these learnings away. Yeah. And exactly as you said, like Josh, Ricky, Campbell, Scott, oh no, probably not Scott. I'm going through my nephews now, but all of that second generation, I can help them not make those same mistakes. Even onto our twins, Jade and Noah, funny, just on Jade, because she hears and what we're doing with all the properties, and she said, oh, Dad, not can I help her with property, Dad, you're doing my finances.
Yeah, right.
That she doesn't want me to help. She just wants me to do it.
Yeah, right.
When she turns 18, I'm supposed to look after her portfolio. But anyway, it's, it's all things that I can make sure that I can't see any of our second generation doing a house and land or going out and buying it themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
especially
let me make that mistake and you learn from it.
Pass on the learnings, I always look at as long as you take the lesson from the loss, it's not a loss, it's just an expensive lesson. It just depends how much that lesson costs, right? But sometimes, man, the most expensive ones are the ones that, or quite often the most expensive ones are the ones that get burned into your brain that you make sure you never make again. And the cool thing is, again, passing it on to the other generations close to you. Don't make those as well. So Mate, even in itself, like it's a crazy journey. Obviously the last, you can see the last like 12 to 15 months has been an absolutely exponential bloody run in your portfolio as well, and an explosion of what you've built in there too. And sometimes it's just rearranging the chessboard, right? And like, what can we take out to multiply somewhere else and improve that velocity of money, give us a greater return on that front. Mate, I really, really like this. Portfolio wise, just give us a recap on total value, 9.6 mil.
Yep.
9.6 mil, and then the equity position is over 5 mil. So you're sitting at a sub 50% LVR. You're probably sitting at like a 45% LVR from that front. In terms of the overall cash flows of the portfolios, I mean, I guess a lot of these are in SMSF as well. So they're run at a different rate and they're P&I as well, right? Most of these things too.
So in the SMFS, so we got so Byford's paying for itself.
Yep.
Then Secret Source 1 and 2 are just a minor bit negative, like $100 a week.
Okay.
But then Marsden has no debt.
Yeah.
So
the
Marsden's going in and supporting the other two, and in fact going ahead. So the self-managed super is fine. It's got capital growth properties in it, and they're paying for themselves.
Yep.
So and we're putting in, so that's fine. The position outside the super is where it's a little bit more tricky.
Yeah.
Raceview and Thornside at the moment are paying for themselves. Monavar, we stripped some of the equity out to pay for Secret Source 4.
Yeah.
So that there's a bit there, and then Marumba Downs. So it's still a good position to be in.
Man, where to from here? Let's say the Jets are cooled. We move the chessboard around a little bit again. Where to from here? What are you chasing?
Okay. What I see, and from our last strategy call, so I'm going to borrow your strategy if that's okay.
Let's go.
Either the Raceview or the Thornside, we sell that and we go into commercial.
Okay.
And actually maybe even sell both in one after the other.
Yep.
And there's a good equity position in both to be able to carry that forward. And I know which one Gab wants to get rid of, the one with the fronds in the pool all the time. So that she gets calls about. So, yeah, and that's our next step about where we're moving forward.
Yep, 100%. Okay, sweet, man. I love it, man. I love it. I think, the position you're in now, and obviously where I think that's going to be multiplied to, and like what I found really interesting, even leading into today, was I was curious because you've obviously got a larger portfolio than most that we dive through. I know you love, chatting about the family, the extended family, and everything that they're looking to do and build and everything as well. But it's funny, man. I feel like we punch through this in like almost like record time especially for a portfolio this size as well. So, mate, I've loved it. And I think what I'm super excited about is you've got the broker saying, let's cool the Jets. You got you and I going, yeah, right. Let's reassess the chessboard and what are we going to move around from here? Man, I think in 12 to 18 months, I'm going to be really excited to see what we're putting in the portfolio and building in the portfolio. And yeah, man, where to from here? When we do that, almost like a where are you now potty as well, mate. Anything else you want to recap on the portfolio side?
Not on my side, but are we going to touch on the family side?
Man, I was going to say you hit me with a few things about them as well. If you want to give me a few points around that and what you're sort of witnessing within their journey, because all your boys are in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also mum, like.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. She would, and these, because it's really, there's learnings for people of my age that have older people, like parents that have got homes and that sort of thing. Like in the case of my mother, right, when my dad passed in about 2013, there was a family business.
Yep.
They sold some to mum, some to Rob.
Yep.
All good. Mum, she's a crazy, like, trip. She's been to the Arctic, the
crazy,
Antarctic.
Man. She's in the Amazon at the moment.
She is. Actually, I've got to tell you something about that.
Yeah.
She's in the Amazon right now.
Yep.
She went to the airport on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Couldn't find a passport. Who goes to the airport without their passport? So she had to go home, can't find it, so she has to change a flight. She goes into the passport office. They'll only do an expedited passport for business trips or study.
Okay.
So she told them she was studying wildlife in the Amazon. Seriously. And they processed her passport.
Wow.
On the day. Yeah.
No
then
way.
she flew out yesterday. So all this happened between Wednesday and Friday.
Bloody hell.
And
Mate, that's
you know
crazy.
the funny thing is, I'm the one
Talk
in the
about a
family.
hustler. Talk about a hustler.
Yes, I'm the one that gets called the hustler, and she's doing dodgy shit like that.
Dodgy, hey, hang on.
So she's in the Amazon right now.
Yeah, studying wildlife
What,
to
studying
the Australian
wildlife?
Passport Office.
Yeah. And then later in the year, she's going on a 6-seater plane across the Serengeti
Wow.
in Africa. So she's doing all these crazy things. And last year she flew to Port Moresby and caught a 100-berth boat. There's always a purpose to what she does.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but it went from Port Moresby to Vanuatu, and then she flew home on a small explorer boat.
Yeah.
And, you know, then Greenland and just everywhere, Northern Lights. She's just a traveling 80-year-old, right?
That's unreal.
So coming back to the finances, so the family business gets sold. She's got money. She's burning through it like, you know, nobody's business. But we support her. We love her doing that. She's an inspiration to people, you know, younger people, to say what you still can do at that age.
Yep.
But we had a house in Killarney Heights that she was getting rent from. It was worth nearly $3 million.
Yeah.
She was getting $1,350 a week. It was at like
2% yield or something.
2% yield.
Yeah.
2.4, I think. And nuts. So Rob and I got together and said, Mum, this is again before we met you guys. So, but it turned out perfect timing. So in 2022, I said, Mum, you're going to have to sell the house anyway because you're burning through the money too quick. So let's sell it now, maximize what we can get.
Yep.
Then we'll buy you other investment properties. Because I was even thinking about what I'd already done, which was already at 5 was already double what she was doing.
For sure.
And then we had this. It took us 6 or 8 months to get the deal done because there was renters in there that didn't want to move.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, so when I came to APS, Mum's sitting there with a war chest of like $3 million.
Yeah.
So after I do Byford and Josh does his first one in regional Queensland, I introduced, and remember she was getting hip surgery or knee surgery, and she was in the respite.
I remember, mate. I remember.
And when we did the call,
the Zoom call,
and then we did 2 manufactured cash flow deals for her.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to touch on, some of those deals. The only person or anything that in any of our deals across the entire family that I'm jealous or envious of is Mum's first deal. Paulie D did it.
Yeah.
Regional Queensland, it's a cracker. The guy listed it on Friday. Yeah. Paulie was in their ear all week. We want it. I'll have a buyer for you. He's talking to us over the weekend. It was good that Mum had the money.
Yep.
We signed it on Monday.
Yep.
2 houses, 750, returning 1,100 in rent per week.
Yep.
Not only that, about a month later, I was talking to the salesperson up there.
Yep.
Said if you strata them, you can sell them for $550 each.
Wow. Hectic.
Of course, we don't do that because it's the income.
Cash flow, yeah.
But, you know, that income, that was 7.6 yield. It's crazy.
And your mum's place at $3 million renting for $1,300 compared to $750 at $1,100.
Exactly.
You're almost at the same thing for a quarter of the price.
Which I'll tell you about. I'll give you the number in a sec.
Yeah.
So then we bought another one for her, which is more like a manufactured cash flow where you got one and we're building the other.
Yep.
So the build's going on right now. They've already poured the slab and everything.
Right. Yep.
So it's close. So when that gets up, she will have then 4 properties, which will have cost her 1.4, which is essentially half of what she had.
Yeah.
Returning 150% of what she was getting.
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy.
And then she's still got 1.4 mil that she can have in Latrobe or whatever, which she's keeping for when she moves into,
nursing home or something down the track, retirement village or something,
And that was the beauty of working with APS on those deals. Half the money creating 150% of what she was getting.
Wow, that's crazy, hey. That's actually wild. That's wild to think about, mate. Yeah, half the money of an expenditure to get 150%.
And even Paulie D said to me, I think this is the best deal I've seen.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
How good, bro. How good. And then the boys obviously doing their thing as well. They're building along. They're both on their seconds on their way to the third. Ricky's still waiting for the second.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Josh has got 2.
Yep.
But here's another story too. And this is where we talk numbers a lot, right? But there's also the human aspect of it. Josh is more of he's not shy, but he's an introvert.
Yeah.
Right?
He's quite a type, yeah.
He's a quieter type.
Yep.
Ricky's louder. Campbell's louder. Josh is quieter. I still remember because you'd said, because his one was before Mum's and after our Byford, right? So we were still in those early stages.
Yep.
And you'd said to me at the strategy call with him, you can turn it down if you want to. Now, a year later, I'm thinking, if anyone turns down an APS deal, they're an idiot, got rocks in their head. But I said one thing I didn't tell you is my ex and I live on the same road, 10 doors apart from each other.
No way. There you go.
It's interesting. But it was good when the kids were young.
Yeah.
They say, I don't have a school shirt. I'll go down to your mum's and get one.
Mate, that's classic.
So
it's easy for what is it, not kid drop off, but like the swap over, you know what I mean?
Wife swap.
Yeah. Not wife swap. The kids gone with the different parents, you know what I mean? Like, wife swap.
Yeah, now I'm getting bad looks.
Pete,
I've just dug a big hole. Big hole.
You got a long drive back to Sydney, mate.
Yeah.
I don't envy that one.
So I'm going to get myself onto a different subject quickly.
Just put the top ones on straight away as soon as you get in that car, mate.
So Josh comes over to our place and we're walking down to Lisa's.
Yeah.
And I said, look, mate, because she's smart lady, but she's also very conservative, ex-bank manager, got her own business now, but conservative. So I said to him, we might have to let this one go to get Lisa on side so you can do it. And he said, no, Dad, I believe in Sam. This is Josh.
No way.
I believe in Sammy.
This is the first deal or second deal?
The first.
Wow.
I believe in him. And I was thinking Josh is like a bit cautious too.
Yeah.
He's going, no, I believe in Sammy. I want to do this. We should do this.
Yep.
I went, okay, if that's what you think.
Yep.
So we went in. So we went down to Lisa's. We're standing around the kitchen island bench. So there's Lisa and her ex, being me and Josh.
Yep.
It's 7:30 at night. Lisa's bringing up about different aspects, sort of reasons.
Pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
More cons. And then, what do you know? JT rings me at 7:30 at night. I don't know when you guys actually sleep. So JT rings, and I go,
I've put them all on the no-dos. None of them sleep.
And I go, oh, mate, look, can I put you on speaker? So put him on speaker.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, it's not near floodplains, none of that.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And then he said, I've actually just bought in the neighbouring suburb myself.
Yep.
And that kicked it over the line.
Yeah, right.
When Lisa could see that the guy who was offering the deal was putting his own balls on the line.
For sure. And this is what we do as well, right? Like we're all active investors, man. Especially like obviously the buying team, mate. We all are. But mate, we're a business of investors, Like we all love it. We all live and breathe it. So
the funny thing then
we all put our money where our mouth is as well. We all buy in the same locations.
Exactly. The funny thing is though that then John walks in. It's her new partner, her new husband, and he's looking around. What's your ex doing in the kitchen and with but he actually didn't say anything. He just walked past, went in the bed. But he must have walked in to going like, what the hell?
This is wife swap. What's going on here?
So I'm not going there. I'm not going to get in trouble again. So so that JT thing.
Yeah.
Even not the other day, when we did the last deal in Secret Source 4, I'd missed an SMS from Paulie saying, how are you going with the Bear Trust?
Yeah.
And I pinged him at 10:45 and said, yeah, it'll be done tomorrow. At 10:47, he pinged me back going, yeah, that's good to hear, mate.
Yeah, Paulie's a different beast, mate. He's a different beast.
It's crazy. But then, for Josh's journey, because he was earlier in the year, he pulled equity out.
Yep.
And then bought another one in regional. And as you said, he's waiting for them to go up a little bit before he goes on his third.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's not on the biggest wage ever. And he's
below the average Australian income, right? He would be, yeah. Yeah.
And he's already got 2 properties and looking at a third.
Yeah, in sub 12 months.
Crazy.
It's wild, man.
And then Ricky came along just after that.
Yep.
We've actually joked in the family that Josh is the crash test dummy for Ricky. Because everything that even little things. So we went to the bank for Josh's first one.
Yeah.
And then I told her about our plan to do the second one. She goes, oh, yeah, we'll lend you the money for that when it comes. When it came around, and we went back to the bank, and they said, oh, yeah, we'll lend you 200,000.
What are you going to do with 200 grand?
are we buying a shoebox in the middle of the road type of thing? You know, you can't do anything with 200 grand.
Yeah.
So then we had to do the creative lending, and then we got the second one.
Yeah.
So crash test dummy Josh, then we did it the right way with Ricky. It was like, sorry for clicking my fingers. But
no, you're right, mate.
It was like creative lending straight away and straight into it.
Yeah.
So Ricky's one, his was regional Queensland.
Yeah.
He bought it for 416.
Yep.
This is mad. So he bought it for 416 in September. By December, we'd had it revalued because there's another pre-approval for him for his second one with APS now. Two banks, one valued at 480, the other one valued at 507 in 3 months.
Whoa, that's 90 grand.
91 grand.
Jesus.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he thinks it's the best thing for sliced bread too.
That's wild, mate. And I think this is the thing as well when it comes down to strategy, right? Like someone like yourselves and what you guys are building, especially we say something like an SMSF, up and coming markets make so much sense because it gives us like full cycle, right? And getting there early as possible. And then with guys like, obviously with like Josh and Ricky with what they're trying to build, their biggest issue that they're going to have is equity, right? So you want to get them into a runner market. You want to get the best deal you can, but you want to get them into a market that's going to give them the equity release ASAP so they can get into their next deal sooner and sooner. And that's why like everyone's strategy is different, right? Like what we do for you guys is completely different from what we would do for them. And it has to be because you're in completely different positions, completely different incomes, completely different, equity starting positions as well. So it's exciting, man. It's exciting to be able to, watch you guys on your journey at where you are and what you're trying to achieve. And then obviously see them start to grow theirs from their age as well and their starting positions too, man. It honestly is very exciting, mate, to be able to obviously be very actively involved in that as well.
And and it's great. 2024 was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Rob's coming on. He also got hamstrung a bit from a house and land build. That's why he hasn't actually. Okay. He wants to run, but he can't. And then
he wants to run, but he's got no hammies. They're being held by.
Well, it's his knees. He's just had major operation in his knee, but he can't run. But he can't run financially at the moment. Oh, he's starting to now. And then his second.
You took that way too literally, man.
Yeah. His second and third got coming on the books for APS Beautiful. As well.
How good. Good. No, that's awesome, mate. So the whole clan's getting involved in it.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, mate. I love it. Dude, if we jump to the next piece, for me, I want to touch on mentoring and then I want to touch on school of property. Actually, I'll go school of property first. I know you ran through a few things there, but what were your biggest key learnings, takeaways from school of property? The things that were most applicable to you in your journey to date?
Well, clearly the things not to do.
Yeah.
Which I've already gone over.
What about the things to do that are now taking you to a new level?
Yeah. So I'd also like to bring in the summit in there. A couple of things. One, I learned about the equity position within self-managed super within the School of Property. Then the creative learning, crazy.
Creative lending.
You've got a creative lending, sorry.
Yep.
They're probably the two biggest learnings coming out of the School of Property.
Yep.
The third one, which came out of the summit, was that last session you did. That was, the comparison between renting and
rent versus primary residence. Yeah.
That was nuts. So I went straight home. We started to look around for places in the area we could do it, but we still want to.
Yeah.
It's getting that place where we want to live.
Yeah, from a rental side, right?
Yeah. That's the only thing that would hold us back there.
Yeah. I love it, mate. I love it. So multiple things you're obviously able to implement and learnings you've taken away to be able to keep pushing the portfolio. I think the really cool thing is, again, from a strategy perspective, which then leads into the mentoring piece as well. But that strategy perspective and what I think we're going to be able to change over the next sort of 3 to 6 months to then push forward into the next 12 to 18 months of run. I think it's going to be really interesting to unpack, man, obviously offline, and then be able to implement that, heading into the next, 3-6 months, move some chess pieces around the board and make sure you guys are still moving towards the goals, not just having a breather if you don't need to. If you have to, obviously that's one thing, but if we've got pieces that we can move around and things are at the top, et cetera, then we can keep moving.
Mentoring?
Yeah.
That, as I said, I had to go hard. I needed to fix our portfolio.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done that without being part of that mentor program. Having you help me get the strategic alignment we really needed, was crazy. The mentor program was phenomenal. And you know how the kids these days go, I literally died. Well, you didn't die because you're still talking to me now.
You're not dead.
You're not dead. But so hyperbole, I'm not so much a fan of.
Yeah.
But in 2024, I learned 10 times about property, investing, everything than I knew in my entire life prior to that. 2024 was a mind blow for me. In 1 year. Crazy what I learned, what we're implementing to compared to what I knew beforehand.
You know what's crazy? One thing to throw on that. You doubled your portfolio in that 1 year compared to the previous 10 years in front of it as well, right? To look at a direct correlation of knowledge, education, execution. You know what I mean? Like that 1 year, that one crazy year that you've had doubled what you obviously did in the 10 years before it.
Exactly. And Gab and I were talking on the way down to here. And she said exactly that. We've done that in 1 year, but actually the previous part was not 10, it was 20 years.
Yeah, right.
So we've done...
Oh, of course, because you're 2003 purchase or whatever it was in Monavale. Yeah.
It's crazy the last year compared to the previous 20. But there's two things to the mentor program now. One, for me, and I suppose I'm talking a little bit on my side, I can now help and mentor my own kids, like Josh and Ricky and Jade, Noah and Campbell, whatever, going through. And there's another actual human piece to it too, which is a lot of the time I hit 18, bang, I was out the door.
Yeah.
And I talked to Gab, she was the same, gone.
Yeah.
This allows us to stay also involved and help them achieve as much as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
By giving them guidance about the mistakes that we had so that they can do the best that they can out of their financial situation, which Gab and I were talking about as well. We never got the financial guidance when we were young. It was like, that's your business from our parents. Yeah. We love our parents, but they weren't really into that. But now it gives us another level to stay involved and help and guide them. I mean, they make their own choices, but they can lean on us for that guidance. And that human element of staying that really close connected to your kids is also really cool. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. It keeps both of you very vested in it as well, right? Because it's not like they're just wanting to go. No, they may want to, go out and just party and kind of live that sort of lifestyle sort of thing. But it already sounds like you're saying about your daughter already at 18, I want you to do it. I was like, hey, sweet. Well, what comes with that? It's a budget, like all these sorts of things to kind of keep it in check a little bit, right? But I think, mate, so many people, when they kind of get to that point, they go on that pathway, that journey by themselves, you know what I mean? And to be able to handhold and finesse them through that so they don't make those financial mistakes that so many people do in their 20s, mate, I think it's going to be, or even in their teens is, mate, I think it's going to be life-changing and game-changing for them. And imagine the portfolios they're going to have when they're 21, 25, 30 years old as well, compared to even, say, someone like myself. I think it's going to be really cool to kind of see that and witness that from that end. And, mate, I think it's I'm very much the same as you of I got a lot of great advice from my parents and I got a great work ethic from them and everything as well. But I never really got anything from a financial advice perspective or a how to do things sort of, perspective. So, mate, I think it's game changing what you guys are doing for them. And what I'm really excited about with this podcast is I'm hoping a lot of we have a lot of guys and girls in their 20s and 30s and stuff listening to this and even, younger than that too. But sending it on to their parents or even parents who do listen to the stuff that they're, my kids are, buying properties with this company, who's this company, and then kind of hearing your journey and your story as well. And man, even people, who are a bit older who are listening to this, starting their own journeys and what they're going to be able to kind of pass on to their kids too. Honestly, mate, it's really, really cool what you've done. It's super inspiring, but I think it's really cool what you guys have done and how you're trying to pass it on to the next generation. And even seeing what they're doing and building, in their own portfolios at their age, in their 20s, starting to scale the portfolio when if you weren't there guiding them with it and helping them, they probably never would have done it. Or if they've done it, maybe they realize at 40 and try to start then. Instead, they're going to get a 15-year head start on that. Obviously, your twins are going to do it so much even sooner than that. They're going to get a 20-year head start on that, mate. Time is everything, right? In wealth creation, especially, and man, being able to shape their journeys from such a young age, mate, it's going to be, your kids are going to kind of have choices that you guys probably never did, and I know my parents never did as well at the ages that you guys are now. They're going to have such different choices in life in terms of what they're going to be able to do and chase and what they're going to be able to build in that time frame as well. So, mate, it's it's crazy to kind of listen to it. I've been so excited to do it this potty whenever we did. I remember when I showed you for mentoring, I was like, this is going to be cool to unpack at some point and go through.
Exactly, and I've been really looking forward to it. And I really like one statement you said in there too, finessing the finances, so we can help them finesse, so they're not stumbling. And I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
There's another thing too, like from the 20s and people my age, exactly as you said, because I really, the 20-somethings that listen to this probably will turn off halfway through. Who's the old guy? But there's people in there.
Who's the old guy with a double digits portfolio? I don't know, mate. I reckon I might keep tuning in.
Exactly. But then there'll be people in their 50s who are going, well, what? That guy met APS in the 60s. And so, but it's the two ends. It's like helping what we did with mum and then what we're doing with the sons.
Yeah.
And yet I actually really thought that dealing with the property managers that I'd have to jump in. I sort of property managed for mum.
Yep.
Like take all the calls now. I thought I'd have to do the same for the boys.
Yep.
No. Josh manages 2 properties now and Ricky 1. I've also got the property managers, but it's an extra level of maturity that's required there, and it's good for them. And I don't even know who their property managers are anymore. Like I probably stayed in contact for a month.
Yeah.
But
they've taken it on. They've taken it on
and they're running with it. And that's
growth, man. That's growth.
And on mum's, I sort of I help her out and take the calls so she can go off to the Amazon.
Yeah.
And the
reception's so good, Pete, and the Amazon. You're going to have to handle this for me, mate.
Yeah.
But no, mate, I agree with you completely. And I think it's a really cool thing. You have to go through that growth phase of even speaking to brokers, speaking to APS, speaking to, everyone through the whole process of property managers, everything. It's, you can't hide under like a parent facade anymore, And I think it's great that they have taken that on. Like you were there willing to do it and then they've done it and taken it on. And man, I know, I can even remember when I was a young fella and I settled that first property, nothing feels like owning your own home, especially at, when they're in 20s. Okay, I was 19, but like all these people in their 20s, they're going to kind of get that first piece of their little piece of Australia, in their 20s, 30s, whatever it is that they get that first bite of it. It's, man, it's a crazy feeling because it's like, it's always that thing that's like, oh yeah, hopefully. And then to do it and then be able to multiply it and everything from there, man, I think like there's just so many of these pieces of growth that kind of come from it as well. And I think it fast tracks your maturity of shit that you have to deal with, and when you have to deal with it, all of a sudden, like you start growing up very quickly. It's not like you're an adult, you know what I mean? You can't dick around with it. You have to be switched on. So mate, I love it, dude. It's awesome.
I got to tell you one thing though.
Let's go.
Is
this another subpoena story or what?
No, they're for after the podcast.
Okay.
The house is when we sold the house, when Rob and I, we got together as three, Rob, myself and mum, you know what happened? When she was going to her friends and having chats and talking, this is how aware and still good. She's actually the president of the Austrian Club of Sydney.
Yeah, right.
She took it on earlier this year because there was and my dad used to be years ago. But so she's like she's into all different groups. She's the busiest retired person ever. But when she's talking to her friends and she was saying, oh, my boys are selling the house for me. You know what they all did?
What?
Multiple occasions. They're going, oh, do you need help? Do you want us to call, the police or?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they thought we were. It was like elderly. Elderly abuse.
Yeah.
Elderly abuse.
Yeah.
And taking the property away from her. And she got that multiple times.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is that the first thing that people go to, the negative? And then she had to explain that, and she can now tell them the full story.
Yeah.
But it was wild to me that when she was telling her friends that her boys were selling the home.
Yeah.
That's where they went.
Yeah.
Elderly abuse.
Man, I think it's funny, right? Like so much of it these days, I don't know specifically these days, but in Australia, it is like, it's always like the worst case of like, oh, you got to be careful of this or that or whatever. And, it's almost, there's a tall poppy side, but then there's the cautionary side because everyone's worried about getting fleeced or someone getting fleeced or whatever as well. So it's crazy, mate. It is rife in Australia, but it's, Nah, man, I think it's so honestly inspiring what she's done as well. It's nuts. Mate, I want to run through. Do you want to finish on anything?
I have one last thing to
Let's
say.
go.
Well, actually two. Okay.
One of them better be a subpoena.
Firstly, I contract in IT. I was talking to Kel earlier. I go to different companies, have for 20 years.
Yep.
I've never seen a company, and this is going to sound like a bit of a suck, but too bad. I have to go forward with it. Never seen a company where everybody is on the same page with the boss about what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve, how they're trying to achieve it. You've got a special company here and you've got a special group of people that you work with. I love them all. I talk to them, I talk to all of them. And the one line that is running through them all is they're all on the same page about doing the best for the client base as possible. And it's fantastic to see. I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
The second thing is, I told you some numbers at the end of we were on the dance floor.
After the
summit.
little after party summit drink thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went back and did the actual numbers on
The
this.
dance floor, yeah.
Yeah, Gab doesn't like me saying the dance floor. It sounds like we're having a nice slow dance together or something. We spent, the Wandl family in 2024.
Yeah.
And this goes to one of your points. Like, I have all these little sayings, like another brick in the wall we talk about in our family, and I'd stolen a couple of yours.
It's not how much something costs, it's how much it makes you.
Say that again?
It's not how much something costs, it's how much it makes you.
Exactly.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. We spent 171K with you across primarily the BA agent, but School of Property and going to the summits. 171, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, man.
Our family just in 2024 across the whole portfolio increased by $804,000. That's a net position for the Wandls of $632,000 just in 2024. And you know
That's
what?
1 year, one year return.
And we don't have to pay those fees.
Yeah, it's a one-off.
It's a one-off.
Yeah.
Next year, it's just free and clear, free and
Profit,
clear, free and clear, free and clear.
Yeah.
It's crazy what we've done with APS in 2024.
That's unreal. You know what's so nuts as well, mate? Honestly, I thank you. I as soon as you said that for half a second, I knew exactly where you were going with the it's not what something costs you, but it's what something makes you. And man, it's crazy how many people don't understand that piece, or they get fixated on what something costs, not what that result is that they're going to get out of it or return. So, man, I'm really grateful that you worked that out for us. And it will be unreal to unpack at some point in the future where that actually sits as like a multiplied, compounded effect as well over that lifetime too, dude. So, mate, honestly, thank you so much. I'm going to rip through a few things here, my key takeaways before we jump into some rapid fire. But mate, hustler from a young age, I reckon that's just like, you just see it the whole way through as well. You know, you've tried to make things work. Man, even when you had time out of the market, like, or like you had bought properties that you didn't get results out of, you didn't just be disheartened by that thing and not keep pushing forward. And I see that so much of someone being like, oh, I bought a property and like, I didn't make any money in 12 months, so I sold it and investing's never for me again. Like expecting like these immediate returns. All right, $170,000 spend for 840 or whatever the split was, the massive return on that end. But it's not always exactly like that. And I think like the fact that you made those decisions, obviously that's in 2024, but like that whole period in the lead up to it of 2014 specifically to 2021, 2023, where you didn't really do much or make, especially 2014 to 2021, where you didn't really make anything in that window. And yet you were still looking to push forward and do something. Like, it's almost like that never give up. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm going to make this work. All right, I haven't had the exact results that I wanted, but I'm going to make this work and we're going to keep pushing forward. And man, I really, really respect that because, you know, sometimes you see it's like a meme about different things. And like, there's that guy hammering in the tunnel, right? He's hammering in the tunnel for whatever the thing is. And he turns around and walks away just before he hits the diamonds, right? Just beyond he's tunneling through in the diamonds or the gold or whatever's just beyond that next bit. And so often, you just have to keep pushing forward for that next little bit. Now, obviously, if people have losses or there's things that play out of it, there's different things to take into the equation. But in scenarios like this, man, like you've kept pushing forward and then look at it's kind of like hitting that gold mine. You know what I mean? It took you 7, 8, or it took you longer. It took you nearly 10 years from the 2014 to 2023 when you found us. And then everything changed in 2024. It literally was, man, that's 10 years before it really turned in that year of 2024 and you doubled the portfolio in 12 months. mate, that grit, the determination, you know, the perseverance with it until you found something that worked. And now I know you guys go all in on it from that side. But mate, even just from your position and what you got to, mate, that is super, super inspiring from that. And I think you should be really proud of what you guys have achieved in that time frame too. Because some people that turn around when they haven't made something on the first or second, regardless of who it was with or where it was or all the rest of it, and don't keep pushing forward and getting to that goal at the end of the tunnel, right? One other thing I took away from it as well, man, was like there was different pieces where you had years out of the market, like just busy being busy. Like in 2010, you had the SMSF set up, but then you didn't do anything for 4 years. And I think like it's not a good takeaway, but it's a lesson. You know what I mean? It's a lesson that I think other people can take away from it. Of you got to get started. Like the sooner you can bring these things forward, even if it is you can bring lessons forward 4 years. You know, whatever it is you can bring forward from that time frame. If you're in a position to invest, exactly as Pete said, you know, in this potty multiple times. Everyone wishes they got started sooner, whether you're 60 or whether you're 20 or whether you're 30 or whatever it is. Like everyone wishes they could get started earlier. So if you've got the ability to do it, get stuck in and start earlier, because we all wish we doubled down harder on a market or bought a year or two earlier or whatever it is. So if you got the ability to do it, do it. Go harder, go earlier. Taking action, that speaks for itself. What you guys have done over that period of time. Financial advisors, being wary of who you take your advice from. I'll probably just leave it at that. And then the final piece being circle of influence, both from Nikki giving you the constant, you know, chattering in the ear of Sammy Gordon APS, that, you know, circle of influence for you and what she did for you and as ultimately has done for the family as well, has been a really, really strong impact. And then I kind of look at then you on the other side of it and how you know, project that side of things as well. And you being that circle of influence on the others around you, man, there's so much gold in that people I think should really like take away from it, that you can positively impact people and you've always got to be wary of who you're around and who you're talking to, you know, from that perspective as well. But I think, you know, so you don't get that negative response on that end as well. But man, people who are open to it and people that you care about, if you can help them with this side of things and be that positive circle of influence, there's more and more people to keep pushing you up and helping each other along the journey as well, mate. So yeah, mate, I absolutely love all that, man. They're my key takeaways. I want to ask you one sort of final question before we jump into rapid fire as well, mate. What would your like best piece of advice be to other people, either thinking about starting the journey or they're in the journey? You know, what are the best piece of advice that you would pass on?
Well, as I said earlier, I think anyone who's 20-something turned off a long time ago, but I think this really, for people in their 50s, and that we're in the exact same position that Gab and I were, you know, when she was saying to me, we don't have a strategy, let's get a strategy.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to project and people to take away from this, sort of my generation.
Yeah.
Have a go. Talk to APS. Get in there. Get on that playing field and start kicking some goals. But you've got to get on there, have a go. Yeah. And it's not too late. I mean, if I can do it at 60, you know, 40s, 50s, whatever, just get out there and go.
Yep.
It's that, as you said earlier, take action.
Yep, for sure. But I think one of the other things that I didn't write down that I just thought about then as well was investing in your education. Like you think about the 10, like you said, 10, 20 years beforehand that you learnt more in 2024 alone than you did in the 20 years beforehand. Well, the whole period beforehand, but 20 years since you bought your first property, up to that 1 year that you learnt more, applied more. You look at the return of what you made in that time frame as well. Investing in your education is so important, right? Like what you can glean out of that, and obviously be able to apply to yourself, and again double your portfolio in a 12-month window. So, mate, I think that's really, really cool.
Thanks.
Beautiful, mate. No worries at all. You happy to jump into some rapid fire to wrap up?
Sure.
Beautiful, mate. Let's get rolling. Mate, question number 1. The biggest goal that you're chasing?
I want to live down on I love Newport.
Yep.
Newport is one of the best places on earth.
Yep.
Village atmosphere. You have a coffee down there. People come past, say hello. Oh, I want a house on the beach down at Newport.
House on the beach in Newport. All right. I was about to say the next question is dream primary residence. What is it and where? What about a passive income goal?
Well, Gab and I are also travellers. Not crazy like my mum, but
Not yet.
Not yet. But we'd like to do travel, so we're going to need a passive income of like $250.
Okay. So house on the beach in Newport and $250K per annum net passive.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Beautiful. Man, dream holiday location.
See, because I've heard a lot of the questions. I've been lucky enough to have been a lot of places around the world, like 6 times.
Yeah, right.
One place I haven't been, I think you went there, was Mauritius.
Oh, no, I went to New Caledonia.
Right.
Never been in Mauritius.
So I'd like to go to Mauritius.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, cool. Interesting, man.
So I've been to, and then also probably South America, but I've been to pretty much, been inside pyramids. I've been behind the Iron Curtain when it was up, into East Germany. So I've been to some pretty interesting places.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool. I love that, mate. Which is cool that like it's somewhere different, you know what I mean? Like a Mauritius as opposed to those sorts of things. This is a funny one. Dream job, like just because of what you're winding, well, you're not winding down yet, but dream job.
Right. Well,
have you had them all?
I'm going to be on the stage with you in 2030, right? We now have a strategy and a plan to retire by 2027.
Yep.
All through my life, I've loved sport. So really, I know a lot of people say work for APS. My dream job would be really working in sports.
Yeah, beautiful.
Like even commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. I love it. Okay, so commentator. What sport?
It could be anything, really.
Table tennis. A grade table tennis. Just absolutely ripping on the handicaps.
NRL, rugby union, soccer.
Okay.
Played since I was 5. Table tennis.
Yep.
Squash.
I
tennis.
love it. I love it, mate. You never know what's the beeline into something else, right? Maybe start at table tennis, work the way up. I love it, mate. I love it, mate. Favorite food?
I grew up eating Germanic food, but my best mate Joe, it was a funny childhood because the fruiterer, you know, where the poor kids on the block. I used to love to go to his place.
Yep.
The DeBartolo's. He used to love to come to my place. He wanted the Germanic food. I wanted the Italian food, and that for me. I mean, I eat everything. Like, I love all food, sushi, everything. Yep. But I love Italian.
Okay.
Calzone, anything, lasagna, cannelloni, anything. And just from my auntie Vicky.
Okay.
You know,
all right. So Italian.
Yeah.
Okay,
Italian.
Beautiful. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Vodka.
All right, beautiful. Mate, true or false? Straight into true or false. You are, in fact, younger than Jimmy by over a century.
I think that's false. It has to be false.
Must be close. It must be close. In 1990, you won Rig of the Year for the Northern Beaches.
No.
Mate, it's not giving me the falses. Come on.
No. No. I was pretty fit and going all right, but no.
All right. Not Rig of the Year. Maybe Jimmy took it out that year.
Yeah.
He did have a couple of years on you. Mate, this is a funny one. I slipped this in for some reason at some point and I'm still asking it. What's the biggest animal you think you could survive in a fist fight or in a fight? Survive. You don't need to be able to beat it. Just survive.
Well, I'm still pretty quick.
Ooh.
So that's how I'd be surviving. So I'll go an elephant. I'll run around. You can't catch me.
Pull his tail. Yeah, sweet.
We actually got charged by an elephant in South Africa in 2007.
Did you outrun it?
No, we were in a car, thankfully, which helped.
All right, mate. I love it. Man, final one. Tell me something about yourself that very few people would know.
Very few. Well, I'll say one thing I'm very proud of as an achievement is that I've played sport for Australia. I played in 3 World Cups in touch football.
Have you really?
Yeah, in Japan and South Africa and back in Australia. So going to 3 World Cups for Australia is like, that's pretty cool.
100%.
I love it.
That's awesome, man. Dude, I didn't know that. That's cool. Congratulations, mate. That's an unreal achievement. Beautiful. Well, mate, that's pretty much us wrapped up, man. Is there anything else you want to finish up with?
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to this for so long. I love everyone at APS. I love having the chats that we do.
We all love you, mate.
And even, I even haven't worked with Morgs yet, and I sent a note to you guys all at Christmas.
Yeah.
She even responded 1-to-1, just saying, love, your family and everything like that. And of course, I got the responses from others, but I hadn't really spoken to Morgs. But everyone at APS, as I said before, working in the same direction, on the same page, and they're just absolutely wonderful people.
Yeah, 100%. Mate, I appreciate that so much, buddy. I appreciate it so much. Man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for sharing your story, man, getting raw, getting real, going deep. You've achieved a massive amount, man. So I just want to say a final massive congratulations to you, man. It's been an inspiring one. Man, we're 2 hours in.
No.
Pretty much on the dot. Yep, 1 hour 59, mate.
No.
So we're banging for 2 hours, mate. So well done. Man, I honestly, dude, I love this episode, man. So much gold in there, man. So well done everything you've achieved to date and what we're going to do pushing forward.
I do have to say that Gab has obviously been part of the journey, and she's
100%.
the most supporting wife you could ever meet. So it's our journey. I'm property, but it's our journey together. And I can't believe that's 2 hours.
Yeah. It goes quick, eh?
It's quick and
it goes
fun.
quick. It is, mate.
I've had a blast.
It is, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I've had a blast as well, mate. Listeners, I hope you also had a blast. If you did and you took some great value out of today's episode, please make sure you send it on to someone else who you think could also take some great value out of this episode, whether it's your mum or dad or whatever, it's an older gen, or if you're the older gen, you want to send this to your kids and take some great value out of this, and please make sure you send it on. If you are loving the podcast and you haven't hit the follow or subscribe button, please hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform. And if you haven't left us a 5-star review yet, please jump on there, leave us a 5-star review. And until next week, guys, it's a big thank you to Big Pete Wandl for joining us in the studio today for another Scouting Australia podcast.